Coming up on the news at 4, right now, President Joe Biden is in Baltimore meeting with local officials on recovery efforts of the Key Bridge collapse. We'll have the very latest on his visit.
An earthquake centered just outside of New York City rattles the Northeast. It could even be felt in parts of our area. We'll have a live report with reaction from New York.
And the suspect in the Brookland metro shooting is still on the run. Coming up, we're learning more about the teenager who was killed and reaction from outraged neighbors.
I'm tracking just a few spotty showers out there this evening. I'll time out when they clear out and look ahead to a much brighter but breezy weekend on the way, coming up in my forecast.
All right, well, we're going to get you started here at 4 with brand new details on the Baltimore Key Bridge collapse. Glad you're with us this afternoon on WUSA 9. I'm Adam Longo.
And I'm Simone D'Alba. Right now, President Biden is just wrapping up a visit to the site of the Key Bridge collapse.
He also met with some of the relatives of the 6 construction workers who died in that disaster.
This afternoon's tour gave the president an up-close look at the damage and a deeper sense of human loss, as well as a new perspective on the huge job that lies ahead.
So first, to clear the shipping channel, and second, to ultimately replace that bridge, a project that could take years.
To all the military members and first responders, and most importantly to people of Maryland, I'm here to say your nation has your back, and I mean it. To all the families and loved ones who are grieving, I've come here to grieve with you. We all are.
President Biden has pledged the full support of the federal government, and this afternoon he announced relief for small businesses and workers affected by this collapse.
The White House is also asking Congress to greenlight enough money to pay for the entire cost of a new bridge. Well, the president's visit comes as top brass at the recovery and salvage effort released their first estimate of when they might be able to get shipping moving again in and out of Baltimore's port. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is aiming for a partial reopening of the federal channel there by the end of the month. And they estimate the entire channel could be opened by the end of May. Scott Broom with us live at the Efforts Joint Command Center, where he's been talking to the people in charge of making it happen.
That's right. Scott, can you give us a sense of, how quickly do they think they're going to be able to get this done, and how is that possible?
Well, there's 7 giant cranes out there right now staged to begin some of the lifting. We're here at the Joint Command Center, which is where all of the military brass and others have come together. They've taken over the passenger terminal here since passenger ships can't get in. It's a warehouse-sized building filled with people who are putting this plan together. So here are some of the nuts and bolts that are going to happen in the coming days. The channel, if you think about it, is very much like a roadway, and there are 2 lanes. It's wide enough to allow 2 ships through during normal operations. The dolly is way over on the west side of that channel. That means there's a lot of debris on the east side that is not tangled up with the ship. And the plan right now is to start dredging and lifting those items up off the bottom over on that far side. And if you think about it, it's just like a tragedy on a roadway. Get 1 lane open, and the easiest side to get open is the side where the ship is not. That's where there's wreckage on the bottom that is not tangled up with the ship, so it's less complicated to move. Now, they've got all these cranes staged here. They're ready to begin this as soon as they get a really nice weather window. It's been windy today. There was a presidential visit, but beginning this weekend, they are staged now to lift their first 350-ton piece of concrete and steel off the bottom. The idea is to get 1 lane open at least 35 feet deep. Now, that's not the whole channel, but 35 feet is deep enough to begin getting some classes of ocean-going ships into this port and out of the port. Notably, a lot of the car carriers, and this is the nation's #1 vehicle export and import port, get the car carriers, a lot of them can get through 35 feet. So that is a partial reopening of this port, and they are predicting now that they think they can get that done by the end of April. Moving the dolly, getting it unloaded, getting it untangled from the bridge debris and pulled out, that may take a lot more time. The whole channel, which is 50 feet deep, they don't think they're going to be able to get that open until the end of May. But that is a lot sooner than a lot of people thought it was going to happen. Coming up at 5, I'm hopefully going to have a chance to speak with the commander here. She is the colonel of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, STS Pinchason, and she is the one who's putting these plans together. She doesn't sleep very much. She's got an extremely important and dangerous job ahead of her, and it can't go without mentioning that each scoop of debris that comes up from the bottom, they need to survey for the possibility of finding the 4 missing victims in all of this. So it's going to go slowly. They're going to be careful. They're very mindful that lives have already been lost, and they're mindful that this is incredibly dangerous work. We're talking about hundreds and hundreds of tons at a time with divers in the water. All of it is dangerous, and lives are at stake as they try to both recover victims and get this port open partially as early as the end of this month. I'll be back at 5 o'clock to tell you a lot more, and hopefully to be with Colonel Pinchason and let her explain some of this herself. Reporting live in Baltimore, Scott Broom, WUSA 9.
Yeah, Scott, I think your highway accident analogy there is perfect. For those of us here in the district, it would be tantamount to metro single tracking, just one lane to go in and out. Of course, it's just amazing to think in just a few weeks' time that they're going to be able to pull up all that wreckage, the roadway and the steel, and get that one channel open. With the Army Corps of Engineers, we know one thing, that they don't quit. Scott Broom there live with us in Dundalk.
That's right.
WUSA 9 Weather Watch is sponsored by Morgan & Morgan.
Well, the other big story this afternoon, peppered with curse words, a scare rippling across the Northeast, a magnitude 4.8 earthquake rattling homes from New York City, even down here to parts of our area.
All right, take a look at this map. It was centered near Lebanon, New Jersey, just about 45 miles west of Manhattan. Some people from here in D.C. to Connecticut felt the shaking. In fact, our sister station in Hartford was right in the middle of their newscast this morning. Watch.
The door plug blowout over Portland, Oregon. Boeing has now paid Alaska Airlines $160 million in what the airline is calling initial compensation.
Are we having an earthquake? I felt a little rattled.
East Coast earthquakes, by the way, they're not unheard of, right? Back in 2011, a 5.8 magnitude quake centered in Virginia. The National Cathedral, Washington Monument, and countless other buildings were damaged in that event.
Yeah, meteorologist Caitlin McGrath with us now. Caitlin, you have more context on what people might feel depending on the magnitude of the quake.
Yeah, that's right, you guys. I mean, we just saw those videos, those reactions to what a 4.8 magnitude earthquake caused from even miles outside of the center of it. So whenever you have anything around a 2 or a 3, it's considered minor, and there's usually not much, if any, damage. Whenever you start to get above a 4, that's whenever you have some noticeable shaking, like we just saw in those videos stretching all the way into Connecticut from where the center of that earthquake was in New Jersey. Anything at or above a 5 is when you start to see some property damage, and we were close to that. Again, what we saw this morning was a 4.8. Anything 6 and above considered strong. 7 major. That's when you start to see billions in damage and loss of life possible. 8 also severe damage with loss of life, and anything above or at a 9 is considered total destruction. So a 4.8 was noticeable for sure. Thankfully, haven't seen any major damage reports out of New Jersey, Connecticut, the whole tri-state area that felt this earthquake, even down here into parts of the DMV. Now, of course, we're continuing to keep an eye on showers. Yet another afternoon with a little bit of light rain on the map. Thankfully, nothing compared to what we saw yesterday, but still a spot shower or two in and around the district. Back into Fairfax County, we've got some more widespread showers in northern Virginia. And yes, still a little snow mixing in west of the divide. It is all because of this storm system still working its way out of here. But coming up, I'll track where this storm heads as we look ahead toward the weekend, and some brighter sunshine on the horizon. We'll have those details coming up.
Like the sound of that. Caitlin, thanks. All right, back to the earthquake now that shook New York City and the surrounding area this morning.
Now, this certainly is not something that residents in the Northeast are used to experiencing, right? But Michael George is in Times Square bringing us some reaction. What are people telling you?
Well, Simone, Adam, things are back to normal here in Times Square, but I can tell you what I and countless New Yorkers experienced this morning. It started with some mild shaking. A lot of people actually thought it was construction, but then the shaking intensified, plates and dishes rattling in dressers and cupboards, and then people started to realize this was an earthquake. In fact, it was one of the strongest earthquakes ever recorded in this area. A camera on the top of the Statue of Liberty shows the effects of the 4.8 magnitude earthquake that struck the Northeast. These dogs jumped to attention as the shaking rocked homes. And a meeting at the United Nations was briefly interrupted.
You're making the ground shake.
Initially, many thought the shaking was caused by something else.
I don't know if this is an earthquake, so I feel like I'm gonna sit down. I don't think it is, but I think it's just the construction, but it's very weird. And it scared me.
It was a relatively strong earthquake for the Northeast, though it caused minimal damage. Safety crews here in New York City are checking buildings and bridges to make sure they didn't suffer any structural damage.
The earthquake that just hit New Jersey is one of the largest that's ever hit the New York City area.
Dr. Judith Hubbard is a geologist that specializes in earthquakes. She says the ground in this area causes more widespread shaking compared to a similar quake on the West Coast.
The location where the earthquake happened is on a fault that we know about. It's a really super old fault that probably formed about 200 million years ago when North America first split off of Africa.
State and local officials are warning residents to be on alert for aftershocks.
But we're ready for the unexpected. This is New York City, and we respond accordingly.
Experts say there's a small chance of an even larger earthquake in the months ahead. And again, no reports of any serious damage or injuries. For the most part, this earthquake just shook a lot of people up, both figuratively and literally. We're live right now in Times Square. Michael, George, Simone, Adam, back to you.
All right, Michael, we appreciate it. I'm sure a lot of New Yorkers are wondering now why they live there, considering they have this major fault nearby that they probably didn't even know about. So some eye-opening information today. I appreciate your report.
All right, today I spoke with a local earthquake geologist, Dr. Wendy Bohan, and she felt today's earthquake from her home in Chesapeake Beach, Maryland. And she also had this to say about what made today's earthquake unique.
I was sitting in a chair reading a report, and I felt it, and it is, once you felt a few earthquakes, it's unmistakable. So even though it was very weak shaking here in coastal Maryland, I recognized it right away. Earthquakes on the East Coast are felt over a much broader area, so it's not really unusual that we would have a lot of people feeling it. It's just sort of uncommon and a little bit unexpected.
Dr. Bohan says the chance of an aftershock is slim. She says less than 5%. And she also noted that scientists are still actively gathering data about this specific earthquake, and that could take time to get a more clear picture of what happened.
All right, developing in the district this afternoon, police have identified a 14-year-old boy who was shot to death in broad daylight. Police say somebody shot Avian Evans yesterday afternoon at the Brookland Metro Station. This happened just before we came on air at 4 o'clock. We have team coverage tonight as police are still searching for his killer. We're going to begin with our Leslie Moreno, who has the very latest on this case from police. Leslie, what are you hearing from them?
Yeah, guys, as you mentioned, that victim was just 14 years old. This all happened yesterday right around this time. As you mentioned, he was identified as Avian Evans. I can tell you we have seen extra officers out here patrolling the area, making sure people feel safe tonight. Take a look at your screen here. Police want you to take a good look at the alleged shooter. These are 4 different pictures of the suspect. Police are searching for this man here on your screen. He was last seen wearing a black jacket, black hoodie, ripped light blue jeans with black and white shoes. Police say a group of teenagers were involved in a fight on the Metro platform yesterday just before 4 p.m. The suspect, who was not involved in that fight, pulled out a gun and shot Evans. It's unknown how many shots were fired. Evans was pronounced dead on scene. DC police say special officers were at the station when the shots rang out. Those officers helped others take cover and try to help Evans. We spoke with a DC teacher this evening who witnessed the tragic incident as he was heading home. And again, DC police are offering a cash reward up to $25,000 for any information leading to an arrest and conviction. Guys.
Yeah, just another shocking crime unfolding in the district. Leslie, thank you.
Well, tonight we are hearing from neighbors in that Brookland neighborhood who continue to share passionate pleas about addressing the violence. Our Alexis Wainwright joins us live from Northeast DC to share more concerns from the people who live there. And Alexis, can you give us a sense of what they're saying tonight?
Yeah, there's been a lot of emotion from people who live and frequent this area near the Brookland Catholic University station. We want to show you what we've been seeing here today, a heavy police presence. You can see this DC police officer patrolled out here. We've also seen Metro Transit police on foot and in their vehicles. But despite this increased police presence, we can tell you that there are concerns from people who live nearby. And tonight there is a call for action to put a stop to all of this violence. Now, we spoke with a man who has lived in Brookland for 10 years. He was visibly upset during Thursday's news conference by DC police. While police were briefing everyone about the deadly shooting of a teen boy at the Brookland Catholic University Metro Station, the man wanted answers from police about holding juveniles accountable for their actions. Tonight, we are hearing from more people who are from this area who say this is sad to see, but the crime has changed the atmosphere in this neighborhood, and some have moved away while others are considering doing the same thing.
I've seen this neighborhood be turned into a hellscape. This used to be one of the safest neighborhoods in Washington, D.C.
This is the best sweet area in D.C. You hear me? Nice and clean, quiet till the generation change.
Now, again, getting another live look here at the train station. You can see another MPD officer here. This is what we've been seeing all day. Patrols taking different shifts as they monitor this area after a scary situation. Now, coming up tonight at 5 here on WUSA 9, hear from a woman we spoke to who is from this neighborhood and lost her son to gun violence just a few years ago. Also, you'll hear from Ward 5 Councilman Zachary Parker, his response to this and what he's working on in hopes to curb all of this violence. But for now, live in Northeast, Alexis Wainwright, WUSA 9.
You really get a sense for just how fed up, exhausted people are with this just completely senseless violence. Alexis, thank you.
All right, D.C. police are offering a reward for information in the death of another teenage boy. Officers found the body of 14-year-old Isaac Laborde Wednesday morning on a playground near Fort DuPont Drive in Southeast. Police say he died from a gunshot wound. Now, Laborde had been reported missing several times in the last few months. Police are offering a reward of up to $25,000 for information that could help solve this case. To Prince George's County, we now know the name of a man who was shot and killed on Greenvale Parkway in Woodlawn, Maryland. We first told you about this at 4 o'clock yesterday. Police tell us that the 30-year-old Edon Sit Udosin was from Lanham. He was working for a trash removal company at the time of the shooting. Police do not believe this is a random crime. If you know anything that could help police find his killer, give him a call. There could be a reward available.
Healthcare access for D.C. residents is getting a big boost. This afternoon, Mayor Muriel Bowser cut the ribbon of D.C. Health's new headquarters in the Anacostia neighborhood of Ward 8. This is all part of an effort to locate more city government agencies in Ward 7 and to boost economic growth in those areas.
So now at this headquarters, we will have 700 D.C. Health employees, 20% of whom live east of the river.
The upgraded headquarters will include retail spaces, multifamily residences, and senior living units. Well, the upcoming total eclipse gives scientists a really unique opportunity to study the atmosphere. Up next, we'll learn how experts at NASA are using rockets to make the most of their experience. Caitlin?
Simone, a lot of folks wondering what the weather will be like during that total solar eclipse on Monday, and a lot of folks in the path of totality going to be battling some clouds. I'll give you a closer look at what you can expect here in the DMV coming up in my forecast.
Well, many of us will be looking up at the sky during the upcoming solar eclipse. Scientists will be launching rockets during that time. Meteorologist Caitlin McGrath traveled to the NASA flight facility on Wallops Island in Virginia, where those rockets will be taking off from.
Yeah, she's with us now to talk more about this very unique opportunity to study the atmosphere that just isn't available when it's not an eclipse.
That's right, you guys. When the moon blocks the sun during the eclipse, it will cast a supersonic cooling shadow down on Earth. And this will give scientists the opportunity to study how the atmosphere changes and how that affects us down here on Earth.
These ionospheric phenomena happen all the time, but with eclipse, we know exactly when they will be, where they will be, so we can have a perfectly timed science experiment.
Sounding rockets like this,
the rocket's about 60 feet tall,
are capable of collecting a large amount of accurate data in a very short period of time.
The rocket gets launched, the ejectables get ejected at about 100 kilometers, and then they move with the rocket,
making them ideal for studying phenomena like the atmospheric perturbations around the eclipse path, or APEP, which is also the name of NASA's upcoming mission.
Whatever we learn is applicable for other situations also, not just eclipse.
The region being studied is called the ionosphere. It's part of the atmosphere 50 to 300 miles above Earth's surface. Scientists want to better understand how the ionosphere changes during unusual events. And this is where the eclipse comes into play. Think of the ionosphere as a pond with gentle ripples. The eclipse will be like a motorboat flying through the water, creating a wake immediately underneath and behind it.
That localized effect kind of creates a whiplash where the ionosphere's plasma density goes down and comes back up rapidly.
So why should we care about disturbances like this in the atmosphere?
We are an increasingly connected society, radio signals everywhere, and all of these perturbations reduce the strength of the radio signals.
The better we can understand it, through this type of mission, the better we can make that technology work.
And we got to see where all that technology is made. Right in there. Prepping for flights like this takes years. There's all of the engineering.
We're manufacturing the mechanical components here, what we call the skins.
Assembly.
So this is taking all the science data from the instrumentation that we're collecting in flight, consolidating that, and then telemetering it back down to the ground, receiving it.
And then the testing.
We're going to pump a lot of sound and vibration into it that replicates the flight environment and actually goes above and beyond the flight environment. We want to see that break here in the lab rather than in flight.
The rockets will be in flight for only 10 to 15 minutes. During that time, they will send back valuable data that can only be collected during an eclipse.
This is one rocket.
Then the rockets crash into the ocean.
Here we have no parachute, we are not doing any recovery, so the nose cone remains on.
And on Monday, NASA will launch 3 of these rockets in search of information to better understand the atmosphere around us. One of the rockets being launched will take off 45 minutes before the peak eclipse time, one during the peak, and one 45 minutes later. And here's a cool thing. The NASA Wallops Island Visitor Center is hosting an eclipse watch party where, yes, you also get to see those rockets being launched.
It's like a 2-for-1 happening at one time. You see the rocket, you see the eclipse, as long as they have clear skies. But it's very interesting, the science that they're using.
Yeah. You had me at supersonic cooling shadow. Did I get that right? We love it, Caitlin.
Yeah, just amazing stuff.
So if we can't make it to Wallops, don't worry, we got you covered here. Caitlin, you're going to be live beginning Sunday night in Erie, Pennsylvania, in the path of totality for this solar eclipse.
That's right. And while Caitlin is in Erie, our Michaela Lucero will be on the National Mall. It's one of many places in our area having an eclipse viewing party. Head on over to our website, WUSA9.com, for the entire list.
WUSA 9 Weather Watch is sponsored by Morgan & Morgan.
Okay, I know I'm not alone. We're all really excited about the eclipse. I do not have glasses yet, and I am now among those in a mad scramble. And I know we have some resources on our website, by the way, some places that are giving them away for free. Do you have your glasses?
They have nothing.
Okay, then we're in the same boat. Okay.
Well, thank goodness for me. I've got you guys covered. Don't worry about it. But yes, if you can't get your hands on a pair of those glasses that you need if you want to look up at the sun, there are a couple workarounds to safely view the eclipse. And again, you can get all of those details on our app and website. But of course, everyone wondering what the forecast will be, and you see a lot of clouds on Monday, and that really aligns with just where the path of totality is. Unfortunately, it is not looking like a bluebird day for just about anyone. Now, I will say, unless it is really overcast, you will still be able to see the eclipse. Would clear skies be best case scenario? Yes, and unfortunately it is looking pretty stormy down into parts of Texas. Closer to home, we'll be watching a warm front lifting north, and that does look to keep clouds in the area, but I do think we'll be okay, and here's why. This is Monday morning at 8 o'clock. We've got showers off to the west of I-81, but I do think they'll clear out just in time for the eclipse. This is right around 12 p.m. A spotty shower or two possible, but I think we're dry on Monday. I think this model's a little aggressive with the rain that we might see on Monday. But then here we are, 3 o'clock, whenever we have that maximum partial eclipse, when nearly 90% of the sun will be blocked by the moon. And we've got a good break in clouds. So right now, I would say the forecast looks okay. It is not perfect for Monday, but I think we're going to see a pretty spectacular show here as we look ahead toward Monday afternoon. Monday evening, we'll call it partly cloudy to mostly cloudy. Rain chances really start to ramp up later next week, but we're not in the clear quite yet from the storm that we have been tracking all week long. It is continuing to pull through parts of New England, and on the back edge, we still have some showers to deal with over the next couple of hours. So here's a look at Doppler radar. We're talking about sprinkles on the map. Do not cancel or change any plans for this evening. Just know over the next 2 to 3 hours, you might see a little bit of damp weather. Right around Fairfax, we've got a spotty shower. Into DC, you might see a raindrop or two. Some more widespread showers along the 81 corridor from Winchester down into Strasburg. And yes, you might be seeing a little bit of graupel or some wet snow mixed in. We still have that winter weather advisory in effect for far western Maryland as we head throughout the evening tonight. So the center of the storm pulling away from New England, but it's really those few spotty showers on the back edge that we'll be watching tonight and maybe tomorrow. A spot shower is possible for Saturday, but I think a lot of folks are completely dry. You'll just notice increasing clouds after a bright but chilly start to the day. Temperatures fall back into the 30s for everyone by the time you wake up Saturday morning, and throughout the afternoon with those increasing clouds, temperatures will stay in the mid to low 50s, about 10 degrees cooler than it should be for this time in April, but still a tremendous improvement to the forecast we've seen over the past several days. It will be windy though. You're going to notice the wind. You probably already noticed it today. It's really breezy as you're stepping outside. By tomorrow morning, wind will be gusting 15 to 20 miles per hour. Throughout the afternoon, that's when we could see some winds gusting upwards of 30 to 35 miles per hour. Not enough to cause any widespread tree or power outage issues. My biggest concern is just that the ground is so saturated. Some trees might uproot if we see some winds gusting upwards of 30 to 35, but not anticipating any big issues as far as the wind goes Saturday, and we are well below wind advisory criteria. Wind starts to taper off later Saturday night, and Sunday will be the pick day of the weekend. More sunshine, slightly milder, still below average, but temperatures back near 60, and without as much wind, it's going to feel a little bit more comfortable as we look ahead towards Sunday. And the Nats continue their homestand, so if you're heading out Saturday or Sunday, both days look nice. Sunday looks a little bit better. Monday, we'll be watching those clouds around and how they may impact the eclipse, but still prepare as if it is going to be a beautiful, clear day, and make sure you have a way to watch the eclipse starting around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The rest of the week looking really mild with temperatures back in the 70s, but rain chances ramp up as we head through the 7-day.
No clouds allowed on Monday. No. That's our rule. All right, Caitlin, thank you. Up ahead, new medication to treat ALS reaches a roadblock. Why the manufacturer has started pulling it off the shelves.
And the U.S. employment market just continues to defy expectations. We're going to hear about the results of a new government report on the way.
WUSA 9 Weather Watch is sponsored by Morgan & Morgan.
I feel like we've fallen into this predictable pattern with this peekaboo sunshine we're seeing.
At least we get a little bit in the morning, but yeah, it was kind of sporadic today, Caitlin, along with the cloud cover moved in, and then it just feels like colder than average temps for early April.
Yeah, and it really is. It's feeling more like March with temperatures almost 10 degrees cooler than what we typically expect for this time in April, but I promise you we are getting warmer as we look ahead toward next week. We've got a nice stretch of 70s to get through, but this evening, a little chilly, and yes, for some, a little damp. We're continuing to watch those few spotty showers on Doppler radar. Moving through Fairfax County, D.C., you might get in on a spotty shower here. Parts of Montgomery County, if you're in Potomac, Bethesda, over into Silver Spring. Little bit of light rain. We're talking about sprinkles out there this evening. If you want to play it safe, keep an umbrella handy. Chances are you will not need it. We are seeing some more widespread showers back into parts of northern Virginia along the 81 corridor from Winchester into Strasburg. So looks like a little bit of steadier rain just off to the south there. You can see just south of 66 in Front Royal. A little bit of light rain as we head throughout the next several hours. But then as we look ahead toward the weekend, this storm that we have been tracking all week long that has brought severe weather, significant snow for us, rain and storms, is finally clearing out. The center of that storm spinning just off to the north and east of Maine. Now, I did have to add a spotty shower to the forecast tomorrow. It looks like on the back edge we could still see a few raindrops, but I think more than anything you'll just notice increasing clouds throughout the day on Saturday. And the wind, it is going to be breezy and chilly once again. Temperatures will top off in the low to mid 50s, and the wind's going to make it feel a little bit cooler than it actually is. So here we are tomorrow morning, wind coming in from the north and west. That's that chilly wind that will keep us cooler as we head through the overnight and throughout the day tomorrow, gusting generally 15 to 20 miles per hour. But by lunchtime, this is 12 p.m., we're gusting 30, 35, maybe a few isolated gusts higher than that. Not enough to cause any widespread tree or power outage issues, but certainly enough to notice and to make it feel cooler. Later Saturday night, that wind finally starts to taper off, a little bit calmer as we look ahead towards Sunday, and a bit milder as well. Still below average. High temperatures will only top off right around 60 degrees, but if you're looking to head out to Nats Nats Park, I would shoot for Sunday. Going to be a little bit more comfortable. If you're sitting in the stands, temperatures will stay right around the mid to upper 50s during the game. They take on the Phillies at 1:35 Sunday afternoon. And of course, we've got the eclipse on Monday. Clouds are nearby, but right now we're going with partly cloudy. And keep in mind, unless it is totally overcast, really socked in clouds, you will still be able to see the eclipse, the partial eclipse, and it is going to be fantastic. We do increase rain chances as the week goes on, but hey, at least temperatures are mild, back in the 70s.
Right. Caitlin, thank you. Israel's military has released the findings of its preliminary investigation into the airstrikes that killed 7 World Central Kitchen aid workers in Gaza on Monday.
The incident, of course, has sparked outrage here in the U.S. and abroad, and in the wake of a tense phone call yesterday between President Biden and Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Israel has announced that it's going to increase aid deliveries to Gaza, where starvation is a real concern. Natalie Brand reports.
Israel's preliminary investigation found that members of its armed forces thought they were hitting Hamas targets and that Monday's deadly attack was due to mistaken identification, errors in decision-making, and a violation of standard operating procedures. Israel's defense forces have fired 2 officers as a result of the investigation.
All I can say at the moment is to offer my apologies and say that we share in the grief.
The probe acknowledged the strikes hit all 3 vehicles in the convoy, killing 7 World Central Kitchen aid workers. In a statement, the food charity demanded an independent commission investigate the incident.
They were targeted systematically, car by car.
Under growing pressure, Israel approved opening 3 humanitarian corridors overnight, including the Erez Gate in northern Gaza, which has been closed since the war began.
These are positive developments, but the real test is results, and that's what we're looking to see in the coming days and in the coming weeks.
The move follows a tense phone call Thursday between President Biden and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The White House says Biden made clear U.S. policy with respect to Gaza hinges on Israel's immediate action to better protect civilians, and he called for an immediate ceasefire. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
CBS News has confirmed CIA Director Bill Burns is expected to travel to Cairo to resume negotiations aimed at freeing those remaining hostages held by Hamas.
In today's Consumer Alert, an update on interest rates. A lot of analysts have been predicting that the Federal Reserve would cut interest rates this summer, but recent comments from some board members have raised concerns that there might not be a cut after all. After dropping rates to 0 after the pandemic started, the Fed began to raise them to try and counter inflation. In recent months, the rate has held steady, but now rising prices in some sectors like oil might keep the Fed from cutting those rates.
The Biden administration is preparing new proposals to reduce or cancel student loan debt for millions of borrowers. Sources say these proposals would help people who experience hardship that prevents them from being able to pay back their loans. It would also help ease the burden on borrowers who have seen their interest accrue over time. Sources say President Biden will lay out these proposals Monday. Those could go into effect as early as the fall.
The U.S. employment market continues to defy expectations. Bradley Blackburn has the results of a new government report.
The warming weather is helping the job market stay hot. Businesses on Myrtle Beach in South Carolina are already looking for seasonal workers.
Just looking for the help that we need to fulfill these spots.
Restaurants, hotels, and others in the leisure industry added 49,000 jobs in March, finally getting the industry back to pre-pandemic levels. Overall, employers brought on more than 300,000 jobs, about 100,000 more than economists expected. The unemployment rate fell from 3.9 to 3.8%.
There's a virtuous cycle that we see. People are able to get jobs, make money, they can spend money. The fact that they spend money allows companies to keep hiring.
The new report also shows workers continue to make more money, but wages are not going up as quickly as before. Hourly earnings jumped 4.1%, the smallest increase since 2021, but still more than inflation, which is currently at 3.2%. Some employees are seeing a bigger boost. A minimum wage increase in California is giving fast food workers there a raise to $20 per hour. That includes Sandra Vasquez, who has 4 kids.
Really nice. It will help.
The job market continues to surprise economists who've been predicting a slowdown.
It's hard to know when or if the job market is going to let up, but I think probably at some point this year we are going to see it.
Some industries are slowing down. Tech companies, including Apple and Amazon, announced more layoffs. But for now, a large number of companies continue to put out the hiring sign. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
The unemployment rate has been below 4% for 26 straight months now. It's the longest streak since the 1960s. LeBron James' son, Bronny James, is making a huge leap. Coming up, you'll hear about today's big announcement.
WUSA 9 Weather Watch is sponsored by Morgan & Morgan.
Had some wind out there this afternoon.
Yeah.
My hair could barely handle it.
Oh, you're telling us.
Right?
Yeah.
It just kind of snuck up on you, but
well, tomorrow's another ponytail day for sure. It's going to be breezy once again, but we're getting this wind because that storm system is finally pulling away. We're talking about the same system that brought us rain, flooding, even a tornado warning earlier this week. It has not been a great one for the weather department, but we are finally seeing some improvement as we head into the weekend. Doppler radar, yes, still showing a few of those spotty showers, and they'll stick around for the next couple of hours. A hit or miss light sprinkle is really what most of us are talking about. We do have that steadier rain back into parts of northern Virginia, even a little bit of graupel and maybe some wet snowflakes mixing in for areas west of 81. We do still have that slightly steadier shower down into parts of Front Royal. Elsewhere, we are seeing sunshine blending with clouds. Now, after about 6 o'clock, we'll clear out the last of the showers, and slowly overnight, clouds will break apart. We're going to fall mostly clear as we head into the overnight hours, and under those clear skies, temperatures back down into the 30s for everyone. It is going to be a chilly start to the weekend, right around 36 degrees in Frederick and Leesburg, below the freezing mark along the I-81 corridor. 34 is where you'll start the day in Manassas, 39 in D.C. Now, with plenty of sunshine tomorrow, temperatures will gradually climb, but only back into the low to mid 50s, about 10 degrees cooler than what we expect for this time in April. And with that wind, going to feel a little bit cooler than it actually is. Similar to today, we'll see wind occasionally gusting 30, maybe 35 miles per hour. Not expecting any widespread tree or power outage issues. My biggest concern is just because of how saturated the ground is. Some trees could get uprooted if we do see some stronger wind gusts, so always a good idea on a day with wind to keep your devices charged just in case. Wind will start to taper off for Sunday. I'm going to give Sunday the pick day of the weekend. It'll be a bit brighter, less windy, and a few degrees milder, back in the low 60s. And of course, we're keeping a close eye on that cloud cover forecast ahead of the total solar eclipse on Monday. And a lot of folks in the path of totality, unfortunately, looking at some clouds. Not an ideal forecast as we look ahead toward Monday. Now, we can say for certain now, high pressure not going to be in control for our region. We're going to be watching a weak system coming through on Monday. I do think we'll see a nice break in the clouds just in time for the partial eclipse. It's going to start just after 2 o'clock for us here. We're halfway to our maximum partial eclipse by 2:47, and our maximum eclipse whenever we'll have just a little sliver of sunshine, but 87.4% of the sun blocked by the moon. That is going to be at 3:20. That's going to be the time that you want to be outside and looking up safely with solar glasses. Now, if you have not been able to get your hands on a pair of those solar glasses, there are a couple different workarounds. You can get all of the details on our app and website. Now, as far as rain chances go, as we look ahead toward next week, I did take out the showers for Tuesday. I think if we see rain, it's later at night, say after 9-10 o'clock in the evening. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, yes, all featuring some showers, but no day looks like a washout. And you know what? With those rain chances also come milder temperatures. We'll be back in the 70s for next week. So I know the next few days, yes, they're unseasonably chilly and feeling a little bit cooler with that breeze for Saturday, but will be milder as we look ahead toward next week. We start to see temperatures climb on Monday just in time for the partial eclipse. And of course, we'll keep you posted on the exact timing of all of those rain chances next week as we get closer to it. All right, now how cool is this? NASA challenged students across the country from kindergarten through 12th grade to explore how NASA has powered some of their most iconic missions, focusing specifically on radioisotope power systems, also known as nuclear batteries. And of the nearly 1,800 entries, 45 students were selected as semifinalists, and one of them is from right here in the DMV. Ashwin Cohen is a third grader at Janey Elementary School in D.C. and recently stopped by our WUSA 9 studio to tell me all about his research. How did you come up with your essay to solve such a hard question?
First, I went and looked at a whole bunch of videos about radioisotope power, and then I looked at even more videos and more and more, and I think you get the idea at this point.
How did you feel when you found out you were a semifinalist?
Well, I was super surprised, and on top of that, they put it in this really, really dramatic video with really dramatic music. So I was shocked, and then on top of that, there's all this extra dramatic stuff. And now I'm on the news, so I guess this was a bigger deal than I originally thought.
Yeah, it is a very big deal. And we said there were 45 semifinalists, but there were only 15 in his age group from the entire country. Just so incredible. We're so proud of Ashwin. And the finalists will be announced on Monday. We are wishing Ashwin so much good luck. Such a bright kid. So fun.
He was hanging out with you yesterday watching you put the forecast together.
He was, and it's always so fun to see, how people view our jobs through the eyes of folks like Ashwin. He had so many great questions and really just has such a bright future. We're really excited.
That's what I was going to mention is the curiosity. I was watching him going all across the studio, and namely he was on the green screen quite a bit, as you kind of touched on, and he was a natural.
Yeah.
He was really good at that
And to
too.
no surprise, he says, of course, he wants to be a scientist when he grows up.
No surprise there. All right, Caitlin, thanks. We're coming right back. So just a few hours ago, Bronny James, the son of NBA great LeBron James, announced that he's entering the 2024 NBA draft while maintaining his college eligibility. Now, this comes less than a year after he suffered cardiac arrest. The 19-year-old guard survived a health scare when he went into cardiac arrest in July while training with his USC team. His father, LeBron, who plays for the Los Angeles Lakers and is considered one of the greatest basketball players of all time, has previously expressed interest in one day playing alongside his son in the NBA before his stellar career comes to a close. The 2024 draft will be held June 26th and 27th.
Boy, what a sight to watch them play together or against each other, for that matter. All right, check out this little pup with a really important job to do. How cute! Our Washington Capitals and America's Vet Dog are partnering with the Caps forward Nick Dowd and his family to sponsor training for this 3-month-old black lab named Judy. Once her training is complete, Judy will head up to New York to help a veteran or even a first responder to live more independently.
He's very photogenic and at least sits still for pictures. Not many dogs will do that for you.
Good dog, Judy. Adorable. All right, police still need your help finding this young man. He's accused of shooting and killing a 14-year-old boy at the Brookland Metro Station in Northeast D.C. Coming up in 5, we are back live in the Northeast with the latest on the search and neighbors who are fed up with crime in that community.